Star Trek TNG had a forgotten Janeway appearance. Star Trek The Next Generation included a forgotten appearance by someone named Janeway in Season 6. The name Janeway in the franchise is most closely associated with Captain Catherine Janeway, Kate Mulgrew, the first female captain ever featured in a lead role and the star of Star Trek Voyager. Janeway remains one of Star Trek's best and most important characters, with additional appearances in modern franchise shows like Star Trek Prodigy. However, Catherine wasn't actually the first Janeway Star Trek introduced. The name Janeway was first mentioned in the Star Trek TNG Season 6 episode Man of the People. During the episode, a Lumerian ambassador named Ves Alcar, Chip Lucia, caused havoc on the USS Enterprise D while he was being escorted to a diplomatic mission. After the death of his supposed mother, Ves Alcar singled out Counselor Deanna Troi, Marina Sirtis, performing a ritual with her under false pretenses that ultimately turned her into a vessel for his negative emotions. This corruption caused Troi to act erratically, including lashing out at an ensign with a familiar name during a counseling session. Ensign Janeway on TNG predated Star Trek Voyager's captain. The ensign Troi berated in Man of the People was named Janeway Lucy Boyer, marking the name's first appearance in the Star Trek franchise. Ensign Janeway was only seen for one scene in Star Trek The Next Generation and wasn't even given a first name during her time on the show. Janeway was also the victim of Troi's altered state thanks to Ves Alcar, causing Troi to be rude to her during their session and offer bad advice. Although the scene is ultimately an innocuous part of Man of the People, Ensign Janeway's inclusion is significant for her name alone. Star Trek has never indicated whether Ensign Janeway and Captain Janeway were related. In fact, Ensign Janeway's name only holds significance in retrospect, since Captain Janeway wasn't even created for Star Trek Voyager until long after TNG had been off the air. Still, the ensign's existence is an interesting Easter egg that the franchise has left open to interpretation. She may have been a relative of Captain Janeway's, or the name might have been entirely a coincidence. Without official confirmation from the franchise, there's simply no way to know. Captain Janeway never set foot on any Starship Enterprise outside of her name's first appearance. Captain Janeway was not involved with Star Trek The Next Generation, and this included never setting foot on any ship named Enterprise. Besides a brief appearance in the TNG movie Star Trek Nemesis, the majority of TNG projects predated Janeway's creation. Although she would likely have been involved with Starfleet when TNG took place on the Star Trek timeline, Janeway's backstory during Voyager established that she was never involved with any of the USS Enterprise D or E's adventures. What is less clear is whether Janeway ever boarded the USS Enterprise F. The ship was part of the Frontier Day celebrations in 2401, and Star Trek Picard established that Janeway was instrumental in the planning of Frontier Day, so it's possible she set foot on the Enterprise F at some point. However, Picard never showed Janeway doing so, making this speculation unconfirmable. With 7 of 9, Jerry Ryan, now in command of the USS Enterprise G, Star Trek might still have a chance to show Janeway aboard a ship named Enterprise, bringing her connection to Star Trek The Next Generation full circle. When Star Trek The Next Generation TNG premiered in 1987, it revitalized the Star Trek franchise, introducing a new era of exploration, diplomacy, and adventure. For 7 seasons, the crew of the USS Enterprise D boldly went where no one had gone before, and along the way paved the way for future Star Trek series. One of those series was Star Trek Voyager, another iconic show with a new starship and captain. At its helm was Captain Catherine Janeway, who would go on to become one of the most influential characters in Trek lore. However, what many fans don't realize is that Janeway had a little-known but fascinating indirect appearance in The Next Generation that predates her debut on Voyager. While Captain Janeway, portrayed by Kate Mulgrew, first appeared in Star Trek Voyager in 1995, her character's legacy seems to have an interesting connection to an episode of The Next Generation. This appearance is more of a narrative and conceptual cameo than a physical one. Nonetheless, it's an intriguing bit of Star Trek trivia that further ties the various series together and shows just how interconnected the universe of Star Trek truly is. A glimpse of the Janeway legacy in TNG, the episode in question is The Nth Degree, the 19th episode of TNG's 4th season, which originally aired in 1991. The plot centers on the Enterprise crew's encounter with an alien probe, which amplifies the intelligence of Lieutenant Reginald Barclay, a somewhat socially awkward engineer played by Dwight Schultz. As his intelligence grows exponentially, Barclay becomes capable of interfacing with the ship's computer and achieves a level of consciousness beyond human understanding. At first glance, there doesn't seem to be any direct connection to Captain Janeway. However, in one of Barclay's scenes, a fleeting but noteworthy detail stands out. When Barclay takes control of the ship's systems, the computer voice that assists him belongs to none other than actress Majel Barrett, the longtime voice of the Federation's computer systems throughout TNG and other Trek series. In this episode, the ship's computer has gained a far more interactive and autonomous personality due to Barclay's enhanced abilities. Barclay refers to the computer by name, Catherine. This detail, while seemingly insignificant at the time, has been interpreted by some fans as a subtle nod to the future captain of the USS Voyager, Catherine Janeway. Although this Catherine is not explicitly Captain Janeway herself, it's tempting to consider that this might have been an early Easter egg or a serendipitous hint of what was to come in the Star Trek universe. The writers of Star Trek are known for their attention to detail and for planting seeds that later grow into fully developed concepts. It's possible that this simple choice of name helped pave the way for the creation of Catherine Janeway's character a few years later. The origins of Catherine Janeway. Before exploring whether the nth degree was foreshadowing, it's essential to understand how Janeway came to be as a character. When Star Trek Voyager was in development, the creative team wanted a captain who would be both strong and empathetic, a leader who could thrive in the far reaches of space while still connecting with her crew. After much deliberation and a brief period where French actress Genevieve Bujold was cast, but ultimately left the role, Kate Mulgrew was chosen to portray Captain Janeway, a character who would become a symbol of resilience and leadership. Janeway's name itself went through several changes during development. Initially, she was called Elizabeth Janeway, before the writers settled on Catherine. Interestingly, there's no documented evidence linking her name to the TNG episode in question. Nevertheless, the coincidence is intriguing, as it suggests that Janeway, or at least the idea of a character with that name, was floating around in the Star Trek creative consciousness long before she became a reality on Voyager. Conceptual links between Janeway and TNG. Though the Catherine in the nth degree may not directly refer to Janeway, the parallels between her character and the evolution of the Star Trek universe at large offer some compelling narrative links. TNG laid the foundation for much of what would follow in Voyager, and many themes explored in Janeway's series were hinted at in TNG. This includes the exploration of distant regions of space, the moral dilemmas of command, and the importance of scientific discovery, all themes Janeway herself would grapple with in the Delta Quadrant. Janeway's leadership in many ways mirrored Captain Picard's in TNG. Both captains prioritized diplomacy and science over conflict, and both were frequently put in situations where their ethical judgment was tested. TNG set the stage for Janeway's struggles and triumphs, not only by deepening Star Trek's lore, but also by crafting complex scenarios that highlighted the challenges of leadership in uncharted territory. For instance, the character of Barclay himself, who had a minor but recurring role in TNG, went on to play a significant role in Voyager. His efforts to establish,